Hello, everybody. This is William del Pilar, and this is the Red, White, and Rude, where this conservative Latino brings you everything when it comes to politics being downstream of culture. But that said, we don't always talk politics. Sometimes we just talk straight entertainment, whether it's anime, television, movies, comics. I don't think I've talked about manga. Mangas is a derivative of American comics, but done differently. The funny thing about reading mangas, you're reading backwards when I used to go to Borders and check them out. But that said, we have a hell of a show for you tonight. We are going to talk Trump's tariffs indirectly in terms of the Switch 2. We're going to talk about the Switch 2's pricing. We're going to talk about the Star Wars and specifically, what's that guy's name? Oh, man, why am I drawing a blank here? I'm drawing a complete blank. John Boyega. We're talking about John Boyega and his bigoted and frankly racist comments. All he did was expose who and what he is, a bitter, racist black man. And it's important for us to call out the hate on both sides. When it was the KKK, we as Americans were all over it. But right now, there's been a terrible shift. There's been a very terrible shift. You know, and my take right now is if the Anglos were so racist, why have there been over 400 race hoaxes and counting? Just one a couple weeks ago. So we have to call out racists. We have to call out bigots. You see them mostly from Black America, more so in the public eye. But Latinos are the same way. Asians are the same way. And we have to always call those out. So I will be talking about John Boyega and his racist hate. And then we're going to say goodbye to Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer was my era. The first movie I saw him was on HBO when it was still brand new in its first couple of years. And it was real genius. And I was jealous of that guy. I was like, man, who is this good looking kid? I was a kid at the time. You know, I'm kidding. But he easily stuck out. You saw his star power in that movie. And he did become an extremely well-known star in the 80s and 90s. He would have probably blown up even bigger and grander had he not been so difficult to work with. And I don't say that in a negative way. He's admitted all his issues. He had a self-made, I don't know if self-made, but a documentary on him because he recorded so much video in his time. And that's on Amazon. But we're going to say goodbye to him. And then we are going to sit there and head on down to the Rude Rundown, which is my favorite part of the show, where I tackle anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 to 16 topics from around the nation and around the world that deal with the entertainment world that at times collide with politics. And I'll give you a quick breakdown of it. This is a very important show if you are a conservative, because as Andrew Breitbart said, and I repeated as I said earlier in the show, politics is downstream of culture. And what that means is eventually how culture flows is how politics are formed and framed. And the Democrats have been winning the culture war, and they still are. But we have made a massive strides in that fight against them with podcasts like this. Before I go on, do not forget, or rather bookmark grumblingsmedia.com. grumblingsmedia.com. Bookmark it, as that's where you'll find this podcast, our written work, our clips. You'll find everything there. But odds are you're watching this likely on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, or listening on Apple, Spotify, or Pandora. And you can find us at those spots under the profile handle Grumblings Media. Once again, my name is William del Pilar. This is a Red, White, and Rude. And let's get right down into it. I want to talk the Nintendo Switch 2. There's some tariff turmoil and there's pricing tantrums being thrown around with that. So it's had a rocky rollout. It had a delayed launch to now it has eyebrow-raising game prices. But I did a little extra digging to see what the pricing was supposed to be to what it is. So let's unpack some of this chaos, my friends, and let's see what we're looking at here. So Nintendo, the rollout, the release was set for June 5th, 2025 in the US and Japan with a base price of $449.99. But the pre-orders were initially going to happen April 9th, but they got pushed back. Now, why? Well, they got pushed back because of tariff uncertainties. Liberation Day happened here in America. Viva France. I said that on the Fired Up. Liberation Day of France goes hand in hand. Well-known verse. But you're not being taught that in school anymore, so you wouldn't know. But Liberation Day for America meant the raising of the prices or the raising of the tariffs, which people are ignorantly calling taxes, and they're not. And it will be released by the time you watch this. But my Fired Up, I want to say episode 74, talks about it. It's a long episode, 2.5 hours, but I break down the tariffs from how they have worked under Trump's first administration, how inflation did not happen, how we are at the precipice with a cataclysmic breakdown of our economy, as we saw back in 2007, 2008, and other points in time, and how people aren't telling you how Trump's using this and why he's doing this. And I break it all down for you. And it's a very important episode. So check that out if you get a chance. But it kind of rolls over and bleeds into the Nintendo, because there is, I want to say, a big tariff being pushed on a lot of Asian countries. First of all, his tariffs, there's a 10% flat fee. You want to do business in the United States of America, there's a 10% tariff. That's a baseline. Then he's doing a reciprocal tariff, meaning you want to put tariffs on our stuff at a high price where we can't work, we're going to do the same. And there's a 34% tariff tacked on top of the 10% on China, and a 46% tacked onto Vietnam. And that's where the switch to production is concentrated. This could balloon the console's cost past $600, and that's a far cry from earlier expectations. Again, this is on those nations, not on the U.S. They are bleeding us dry. Trump gave him the flat rate, which is 10%, very affordable in terms of what they can handle. But he's saying enough. Vietnam, for example, taxes us, I want to say 90% tariff on a lot of things, give or take a couple percentage points. I don't have those notes in front of me, but if I remember correctly, it's pretty high, close up to that. So even this 46% bump up, they're still doing better. Well, Vietnam came back immediately the day of. Whoa, Nelly. Whoa, Senor Trump. Whoa, let's hold off here. And they want to renegotiate. And that is, in the essence, what the gist of these tariffs are going to do. Now, China said, no, senor, we are going to do a 34% tariff on you. Here's the problem. We have over $400 billion worth of goods that come from China into our country. We only have, I want to say, about $150 billion that comes from here into China. Their industry or their economy is not on the verge of collapse, but as close as you can get to that term as possible. And they are trying to export themselves back into normalcy. And Trump's tariffs could break them. So right now they're huffing and puffing, but they will come to the table as well. So look for this price and pre-orders probably to kick back within the next week or two via Vietnam. And what they'll do is they'll shift all their production orders, or their early on production orders, from China to Vietnam if China continues to play hardball. But China is not in a position of strength. So I expect both these nations to bend, that we will bring the heel. And I say that in that way because it's true. We need to bring them the heel and go, you want free trade? Well, that's not likely going to happen because y'all will never give it, but we want fair trade. And that's what this is all about. So let's talk about the pricing outrage and expectations. So let's talk about one of the launch titles, Mario Kart. That clocks in at $80. Donkey Kong Bonanza, dropping in July, is clocking in at $70 digitally, but hits $80 for physical copies. And that shatters the $60 to $70 norm and sparking fans to say, drop the price, drop the price. So the sticker shock hit hard on social media. Obviously, that's where they were going to get most of the pushback. Fans are reeling for $80 regarding $80 of Mario Kart World, and the same thing for Donkey Kong Bonanza. So Nintendo's betting this premium prices would work, but then they weren't counting on the tariff threat. So any type of price raise on that, it could be catastrophic. If they don't start out strong, if word of mouth, they're too expensive, this or that, it's really going to affect their early selling. So they've got to get a control on that. And thus, that's why they're holding off on the pre-order, because they don't want to price it out of range. It's already being priced out of range, and they don't want to realize that. So why is there sticker shock? Well, that's because analysts were looking at this pricing to be $60 to $70, aligning with Legend of Zelda: The Tears of the Kingdom, which is about $70 in 2023. So $80 is a massive gut punch. That's about $20 more. That's a lot for the working class family. For those of you that don't know it, the 50% of America has about $3 trillion in debt. Their credit card debt. They owe on their auto loan. They're renting. They're living check to check. So this is a big sticker shock to them. And Nintendo does not seem to care because they're just looking at it from the greed aspect. But the tariffs really are throwing a wrench in their greed. So Trump's trade policies with that, what's that done? It's forced Nintendo to jack up the Switch 2 to $450. So analysts suggest that the company built in a buffer against the tariffs that could have kept it closer to 400 without the geopolitical mess. So in essence, what they're saying is they have some wiggle room, and depending on how sales go, you can see that price lower down. But tariffs really throw it up a wrench because they weren't expecting the tariffs to hit this high. And that's the gut punch that they're taking. So fans expected a $50 to $100 jump from the original Switch, not $150. And with the games, a $10 to $20 bump up is killing the word of mouth, the word of mouth, and the early push to get this game hyped or to get this system hyped up. And people are looking at the value. Is this worth it? Is this worth it? Should we buy into it? I say no. I say you wait. With the way the economy is, parents aren't going to be able to afford this. So they're going to make their sales as they always do. Look, Nintendo's a popular family brand. So families will buy it. That is the families that aren't in the bottom 50%. You're going to see a lot of black market games making the sale here for those families as well. But I say hold off. You got to wait till the tariffs play out. But even then, don't pre-order. I don't think the sales are going to be there as things stand today because of the economy. Maybe a year from now, they'll be able to bump it up because as the economy gets better, which it will, more and more people will buy these games, and it's a supply issue. But for right now, I think they're going to mark it up high. Sales are going to teeter, and you're going to see some sales happen. So that's what I would tell the average person to wait. The early adopters, you guys know who you are. Your parents are bringing in the groove, the cash, the greenbacks. The Benjamins, whatever term you want to use, and they'll get you this game. But for you working class, hold off. But, $50, if you want to bite it, knock yourself out. I think it's going to come down closer to the $400 range after a month or two on the market. But it will bump back up. But I think it's going to take a dip early on. So, the Nintendo Switches 2 saga, some say that's a wild ride, $450 and $80 games. That was not the plan. And now, that was the plan, despite you all thinking $400 and $60 games. But then you add the tariffs, and Nintendo's they're not screwed, but that's a massive wrench that has been thrown into the gears. So fans are stunned, they're vocal, and Nintendo's taking a step back, trying to figure out what's going to happen. Now, Nintendo probably has lobbyists in Vietnam and obviously and probably China as well, and they're probably talking to the government. What are y'all going to do? So those talks are happening, as well as a talk of Vietnam already talking to the U.S. Let's hold off on tariffs. We're not going to put tariffs back on you, but let's talk about this. So the talking is already beginning. I expect Vietnam to come to a solution probably by the end of next week, to be quite honest. All right, let's move on. Val Kilmer. I don't want to say he's a legend, but a pretty well-known actor in the 80s and 90s. Let's talk Val Kilmer, a Hollywood icon's life, love, and a lasting legacy. So Val Kilmer was a versatile actor. He just passed away April 1st. He was only 65 years old. But he had been ill for some time. His last 20 years, I don't think were very good to him because of cancer. He's known for some iconic roles. Top Gun, you can see him there. He was also in the sequel. There, he's looking like the model look there in black and white. He was in Batman Forever, the main picture you see there. Tombstone, far left, one of his most iconic images. And then I have a picture there of him as he looked as he got older. As you can tell, time was not kind to him, not because of bad aging or anything like that. He was ill. And on the right was Val Kilmer being just Val Kilmer there, looking probably his best. So his life intertwined talent. He was resilient. He was tough to work with. Had a relationship with Cher. Other famous people too. So he lived a very, I want to say, a fantasy type life that every kid his age, including myself, were about the same age. He's about 10 years younger, but you know, that you loved, that you're like, oh man, what a life. So he died from pneumonia, and that was confirmed by his daughter Mercedes, and he was surrounded by family and friends in Los Angeles. Cher was his ex from the 1980s. They did it for a couple years. She paid tribute on social media. She described him as funny, crazy, and a pain, and he was very special. I think she was like 7 or 8 years older than him. He met her at a birthday party. They became friends. And 13-year age gap. Wow. But this was back in the 80s when they were both still in their younger age. You know, so 2 years it lasted is what I want to say. So everybody says he was very humorous. He was very artistic, had a deep soul. And he just was unique in his own way. What were some of his career highlights? His first movie was Top Secret in 1984. I'm pretty sure I saw that. All those movies came to HBO. HBO was still new in those days, but I did see him in Real Genius in 1985, and that was a college comedy. Maybe I did see Top Secret. I know I saw Top Secret. I just can't remember what it was about. Forgettable movies, but they introduced him to the world. He became a phenomenon after playing the Iceman in Top Gun. And that was in 1986. Cool-headed. He was what the type of male you hated. He played the mean jerk role, the tough guy role, but he was good at what he did, flying. And again, he was in the sequel, had, I want to say, a cameo, and he could not speak at that point in real life, I think. So it was his final role as well, which, even though it wasn't his first role, it was a role that made him a star, and he went on to become a superstar for a good 10 years. And so I kind of view it as, okay, it's a cool way for him to have ended his career. He also played Jim Morrison in The Doors. You know, I'm seeing a lot of write-ups about that. The movie was actually a flop, you know, but he played a great role in it. Looked just like Morrison, too, in many ways. And he embodied the rock legend with a lot of depth and intensity. And again, he was a very intense actor to work with because he was a method actor. However, I think he will best be known for his Tombstone portrayal as Doc Holliday. I mean, that was Oscar worthy. He stole the show. That's what I remember was his performance there, and he was the second Batman in this new generation of Batmans. I mean, my God, what are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're on our 5th or 6th Batman or something like that. He was the second one. Let's see, the 5th or 6th. Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney. Then Bale, and now Robert Pattinson, I think. So 5. He was the second one. Now remember, this is from the 80s, you know, or 95. It was 1995. Batman Forever, 1995. So wow, 30 years ago, and that kind of made him a superstar. Meaning the movie was not. It was panned, but it was a Batman movie. Made a lot of money. It was one of the first over the top. The first two were dark. This one was bright, silly. The first two were more serious and darker. But he also was in True Romance. He is another culture. Became more of a cult classic. I thought it was a boring movie, like 2.5 hours, except for that one big old scene everybody talks about at the end. I thought it was long and boring. I was fighting to stay awake. Salton Sea, 2002, Wonderland, 2003, and Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, 2009. That was the second half of his career. His career was coming to an end there, but he was also getting thicker, fatter. He was losing his looks, and then he got ill. and that kind of, because I always felt bad. I thought he was a great actor, thought he was a great leading man, and I thought he would do bigger than what he did. But then when I read how hard he was to work with, once you lose that top tier status and you're hard to work with, the roles do start to diminish. His final role was reprising Iceman in Top Gun Maverick 2022, the highest grossing film of that year. And that scene was celebrated for its emotional impact. He was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2014. Underwent chemotherapy, radiation, had a tracheotomy, and that permanently damaged his voice. And that is pretty much kind of what ended his career. Because if you can't speak, then you can't act. He was declared cancer-free in 2020. But the problem here was his body had been literally destroyed between all the treatments, the chemo early on and the treatments afterwards. So he had massive lingering health effects. And I believe his body's immune system was probably at a low level, and that's probably why pneumonia got him. His health declined rapidly in his final days, they say, and it led to his death from pneumonia. So he documented his journey. When I said early on in the show that there was special on him, it's on Amazon Prime. It's a documentary, and that was 2021. It documented his journey, and it was called Val, and it offered an intimate look at him. I actually wanted to check it out, forgot about it. I may go check it out now that he's gone. So, in Top Gun Maverick, AI kind of recreated his voice, and that allowed for the very emotional on-screen reunion with Tom Cruise. So that was like one of the big highlights of that movie, and it showed the love that America came to adore Val Kilmer. Early on, playboy, not bad boy, but not in a bad way, but as he got older with the cancer, with his fight, America loves an underdog story, and him being able to battle back and to uplift himself in that final role. So it underscored his enduring popularity is what it did. It bridges early his bridges early fame with the new generation, and he looked pretty good in that scene. So Cher, obviously, others, Tom Cruise, a lot of his directors, Michael Mann, I believe. All of Hollywood. It's kind of like, how big you are is when how you see how many people from Hollywood come out and look at you after your death in terms of how they talk about you. Gene Hackman was the other one. Obviously, Val Kilmer wasn't on Gene Hackman's level in terms of longevity and Oscars and things like that. But we lost two good ones. And both of them had not been acting for a while. Gene Hackman since the late 90s or maybe early 90s. And obviously Val Kilmer, after he got the cancer, was limited to the Top Gun Maverick. So he left a lasting mark. Doc Holliday, to me, is what I will remember. Batman, Jim Morrison, Iceman. So there's four that he will go down in history for. I think Doc Holliday, that movie will transcend time and be seen over. You see it on television all the time. You don't see Batman or The Doors or Top Gun. Those you don't see on regular television like you do Tombstone. So I think that's what America will eventually come to know him as the years go on. Just like Patrick Swayze is known for Roadhouse and Dirty Dancing, So Val Kilmer's passing on April 1st, people, 2025. It marks the end of a remarkable era in Hollywood with him. Excuse me. Now, his work and spirit will endure, and he will inspire fans. There's going to be some good-looking kids that says, I want to be that guy. So his legend will live on. All right, let's get to some ugly news. Politics, tribalism, racism, and John Boyega Star Wars critique. From Disney's missteps, the fan backlash. So John Boyega is known for playing Finn in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. The first Star Wars was nothing but a remake of the original first one that came out in 1990 or 1976, 77. And that, I think, is like Chapter 6 or something like that. But in essence, the first reboot, the first movie of the second trilogy, that's what it was. Everybody thought that Finn was going to be the next Jedi. So he did an interview on Variety. I want to say it was Variety, or maybe it was Apple TV Plus. But anyway, he talked about race and representation in the franchise. And I think it was on Apple TV Plus. It was a documentary called Number One on the Call Sheet, Black Leading Men. in Hollywood. And the problem is he was not a leading man. The truth of the matter is he doesn't have the qualities to be a leading man. And if he thinks otherwise, then he's fooling himself. You know, his comments, and they oscillate between critiquing the franchise's historical whiteness and calling out fan resistance. It's none of that. He's just a bitter, angry man that he was set for superstardom, and then they pulled the wool out of it, and they went to the girl card and made the woman the Jedi. So that's what it boils down to. We can talk about a debate about accountability, drawing attention to Disney's creative choices and the reactions of Star Wars fan base. It's all bullcrap because we've seen what Disney has done the last 10, 15 years. They've catered the minorities. They've catered the women. So he's just a bitter man because he did not get the leading role to become the next Jedi, but instead was a supporting character. So his role obviously was as Finn in The Force Awakens, and then he was in The Last Jedi, and then The Rise of Skywalker. I didn't even see The Last Jedi. I think The Rise of Skywalker was the second one, and The Last Jedi was the third one. I mean, it was so bad. Mark Hamill is a douchebag. He's a vile, evil, ignorant, stupid human being. He is one of the dumbest, most ignorant, most stupid people you will run across in this country when it comes to understanding the economy and politics, how it works, who's really feeling the pain. Why? Because he's a rich guy. That's why. But I loved the character he played, Luke Skywalker. So when I saw how bad that movie was with him, it's like, you got to be kidding me. I thought the first one, where Han Solo bites it, was not great, and I'm like, he just remade a movie here, maybe that was the second one he died. I can't remember. I want to say it was the first one. No, yeah, it was the first one because they took care. They killed Han Solo. They killed Luke Skywalker because they wanted to create a new generation, and it's flopped. It made money, but the cost of the movies. And you're seeing Star Wars fatigue now, and that fatigue is there because of the racism, the bigotry, the gender issues, the LGBTQ storylines, and the characters being forced and shoved down your throat. So he is a victim of part of this backlash, but he's also a victim of the fact that Disney chose the girl, Daisy, whatever her name is, over him in terms of who was going to be the superstar and the legacy of the Jedi. So he described his role as a fundamental moment in his career. It was his career. That moment is his high point. He'll never, ever have a movie that will be seen by as many people as that movie was. So his commentary is a portrayal of Star Wars as overwhelmingly white. Who cares? The country's made up of over 70% Anglos. Deal with it. There's something called homophily. People garner or gravitate towards their own kind. If 70% of your country's white, odds are those movies will probably do better financially because that audience is going to go out. Empire, very heavy black audience on television. Black Panther, every black American I know went to go see it. That was an outlier. More whites went to see it than blacks, only because there's 70% whites in the country, and Black Panther is a sentimental favorite Marvel character from the comics. So, so my point is it's not the storylines or our lack of it's a lack of a storyline. It's homophily, meaning people gravitate. That's a scientific fact. That's not up for debate, and that's why you saw Star Wars in the 70s. A lot of white, but they had Lando Calrissian. They had all the various aliens. He's just bitter. He's bitter, so he's playing the race card. Where's the Latino? Yo soy Latino, man. I've got the brown relatives. I got the black relatives. I got the white relatives. My grandmother looks like an Afro-Caribbean. My mother looks Asian. I got the whiteness from the Spaniard side and the Puerto Rican side of me. So we are mutts, but his point is one of racism. He dismisses the fans' references to characters like Lando Calrissian and Mace Windu as tokenistic. Lando Calrissian was a big-time player in the movies. He's bitter because he wasn't chosen to be the leading man, and his own racist hate is coming through. His anger, his bitterness, he's allowing his racism to come through. And he's okay with that because he can get away with it right now. But that's why I'm here. We can't let racists get away with the racism. And this is racism. He critiqued the fan base. In essence, he was calling the fan base racist. I'm like, We did not go to that movie hating Lando Calrissian. We did not go to that movie saying, why aren't there white aliens? Why are they all green with the trunks? No. We fell in love with Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, C-3PO, R2-D2, Darth Vader, who, by the way, was voiced by a black man. So all these characters, we grew up falling in love with that world, not because it was white. And he's just bitter. They're okay with us playing the best friend. But once we touch their heroes, once we lead, once we trailblaze, it's like, oh my God, it's just a bit too much. I'm sure there are people out there, but bro, you just weren't leading man quality. And if you want to blame somebody, blame the people you're friends with who put that movie on. But that he won't do that. And I'll tell you this, Disney, after this last debacle with Snow White, they have a cheat sheet. We can't deal with this guy anymore because he's just going to play the race card. He's going to create a cultural divide, a tribalistic divide. And they're starting to realize a lot of their movies could have been hits if the actors had not been bleep holes. That's what that boils down to. So he says his perspective was shaped by his own experience of racist online harassment from toxic fans. He can sit there and say that, but it wasn't. It's what's built in him. You can hit block. You can turn that off. I never saw that, but I'm sure it was out there. But all I saw was having all that crap thrown on Americans. And they just want a good movie. We just want a good movie to enjoy. We don't want Asian, Black, Latino, LGBTQ, women, Anglo, KKK style. We don't want none of that shoved down our throats. And that's all we get. So, of course, you're going to have backlash. I don't earn enough money to go, I'm going to support every Disney movie. I'm going to support this, that. No, I'm choosy. I'm picky on what I support. And here's why he's lying. A lot of fans, a good chunk of the fans, supported a larger role for him. Marshall Bohemian's assertion that Finn should have been the main character. I thought he was going to be the main character. I'm like, oh, look, they're going to make this guy a redemption project from being a stormtrooper to becoming the next Jedi. So, people were complaining about the Chinese versus American posters. Look, I got news for you people. You talk to any black person, any Asian person, there's a dynamic there that's been there for generations. 80% of crime on Asians is done by blacks. So, of course, China was not going to promote the black character over some of the other characters. There's some issues there. What they are, I don't know, but they're there. They've been there. Keeping it real, people. Keeping it real. I'm not taking a side in this. I'm just telling you how it's gone. Remember, it took the Supreme Court to go, no, you can't sit there and be racist towards Asian to put blacks in slots ahead of them in college if the Asian person has actually earned it, is doing better with the test scores. My take on it was simple. I agree. My issue was, why aren't minority scores higher? And that's a whole other topic and debate. So people complaining about that, get over yourselves. That's a whole completely different issue. It has nothing to do with Finn as much as the whole cultural divide and where both sides are at fault is my point. So his earlier critique came in 2020. He accused the studios of marketing black characters like Finn and then to sideline him. And that's true in this sense. We all thought Finn was the next superstar. Turned out he wasn't. So, and that alone, quote, do not bring out a black character, market them to be much more important in the franchise than they are, and then have them pushed to the side, unquote. Go look at your director. Go look at the writers. You knew it going into the second movie, and you allowed it to happen. Why? Because you love that paycheck. So don't be playing the whiny card now, bro. He does have a point, though, to a degree. We all thought it. And maybe that was a twist they wanted, let's throw it not because he's black going to do it, but just because let's have them all look here, and then boom, we're going to hit him with this, with the Daisy, what is her name? Hold on one second. Let me grab that. Took me a second. Daisy Ridley, and that's J.J. Abrams. Go look at him if you have an issue. They wanted to make her a star. And I got news for you. There's a minority doing the next Star Wars if it ever gets off the ground. So again, he's just bitter. He is completely bitter. Adam Driver played a great villain. You know, so he's just a bitter fool. And I've given him too much time, but I will never go watch a movie with him. I don't support racism. You know, again, you know what I think is he's not getting the roles he thought he would. Maybe he's not that good of an actor. Who knows? I don't. I can't gauge what kind of actor he was by watching him in two movies, and it was so long ago. I don't even remember. I don't even know what he's done since then. I don't care. Regardless, his reflections of Star Wars. What does that do? It reveals a multifaceted struggle with who and what he is, and he's turned all that negative energy into hate. Nothing but unadulterated, adulterated, tribalistic hate. He wants to hate on somebody, J.J. Abrams and Daisy Ridley, and on Disney Studios, not on the fans. Stop being a bitter fool, you moron. All right, let's get down to it. The Rude Rundown. It's where I give you my lightning round of what's happening in the entertainment industry and give you my take. Not all of it are politically related. The rundown number one, Ubisoft Leamington closes amid industry shift. So look, Ubisoft shut down its first studio. And that's part of a broader wave of restructuring that's coming, people. Why? A lot of it has to do with the Tencent backed Chinese subsidiary where they took the best of the IPs, which includes Assassin's Creed. There's two more, Assassin's Creed. Where's my notes? Far Cry and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Those are their three top performing IPs. So anything else that's not directly related to creating those IPs or working on them, they're out. Now this group here did work with, I want to say, the Assassin's Creed IP, as they had supporting roles. But the closure is tied to nearly 2,000 layoffs since 2022, and it's going to get even worse. Ubisoft stock is in the tank. The subsidiary's okay, but their current stock is in the tank. They knew that was going to happen. They probably shielded themselves legally, but there's going to be some lawsuits because they pretty much threw all their shareholders under the bus with this move. So Leamington supported Star Wars Outlaw, which was a terrible, terrible game. You know, and it tanked, which is kind of one reason they are closing. Not because of Leamington, but just bad management by Ubisoft. So this does signal a retreat from regional hubs as Ubisoft starting to double down on their IPs, on their teams, their core franchises is what their focus is going to be on. And that's leaving staff and fans questioning their direction. For fans, it's just a fun little thing to watch go woke, go broke, and watch them collapse, which is what they've done. I want to say 5 or 6 out of the last 8 or 9 games over the last 10 years have been woke and have tanked. It's been that bad. And they're now paying the price. And they will eventually be bought out, in my opinion, by Tencent. But this layoff is the first of many to come. Rude Rundown number 2, Sweet Baby Inc. dropped by Sony. That's what the rumors are. Sony has reportedly severe ties with Sweet Baby Inc., whose job was to make your game woke, to tell you what color characters you should have, to tell you where they're from, to do everything in that negative sense, and to, what do they call it, to culturally appropriate characters that were already around from previous games. That's what SBI, Sweet Baby Inc., SBI, that was their job. You know, so they were helping Sony with Spider-Man 2, which flopped. It sold 50% less than its predecessor, and God of War Ragnarok. That follow-up is was given a lot of backlash against their DEI-driven narratives. Or rather, they're supposed to work on that, if I'm looking at my notes correctly. I don't play either one of those two games. I am a gamer, but those two games aren't. So, again, I do know that Spider-Man 2 sold 50% less than the predecessor, and that's because of the forced identity politics and the potential God of War Ragnarok follow-up. So that's probably where they're cutting ties from there. So this is what's called Gamergate 2, is their push for for culturally appropriating characters that are already there, making an indoctrination with transgenderism, LGBTQ. They've relegated the true romance of heterosexual characters to the sidelines. Most of the time, they're not even in the plot for many games. Dragon's Age, The Veil Guard is a game. Star Wars Outlaw was another game. Concord, which you never heard of, 400 million or 280 million or something like that. So a lot of these games. So Sony's probably seeing the writing on the wall. Assassin's Creed is not hitting the numbers. They did everything to give you the perception to drive up sales. Well, it's pretty good, because they bought advertising, and with the buying of advertising for Game Informer, Game Rant, and I'm saying not saying those two, just saying as examples. Those are two games because I don't know, but I do know how the industry works. So while I may not know specifically that happened with these companies, I do know how that industry works. So I would sit there and say the likelihood is yes, it happened. That's just my personal opinion. And so those people, and there's a whole list of influencers. They paid about 70,000 at the high end to Hassan on down to push and promote the game and to state how good it was. So they were hoping to write Assassin's Creed. So they never said how many were sold early on. All they said was how many played the game. So what happens is Assassin's Creed Shadows was probably in, you buy your new computer or your new laptop, you get a free game. And it has, I got a bunch of games like that I never bothered to play, But a lot of codes were given out. So a lot of people play the game. How many bought the games is another story. So Sony probably saw this. And that may have been the last straw for them to go, we need to divest ourselves of this woke culture. Society's shifting another way. Good for you, Sony. And the reason I'm like this, people, is not because I'm against all of that. I'm against shoving that down children's throats. That's a job for the parents to have the conversation. Not the schools, not a gaming company, not Sweet Baby Inc. That's a job for a parent. So you parents need to know what your kids are playing. Rundown number 3, Billy Mitchell wins defamation case. Billy who? Billy Mitchell's former Donkey Kong champion. We're talking from the 80s. His record still holds. It's from when the lore of gaming began. Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Galaga, Asteroids, Tetris. So he won a legal victory in a defamation lawsuit against a YouTuber, an influencer named Carl Jobs. And this put the gaming Zodgar, which he's a very divisive individual. Not well liked. So he's a 1980s arcade icon. There was a time you go to putt golf, miniature golf, or you go to just gaming arcades, and they were packed. And that's where kids hung out. You popped your quarters in. That was when the arcades were owned the world. And he broke a lot of records and top this, top that, and they were later disputed. But he won after Job's cheating claims and a retracted suicide link, which he took to court, and the Austrian courts ordered Jobs to pay costs. So I'm not sure exactly of those details. I just saw the story and I found it interesting because the name kind of caught my eye. So the old guard wins a battle here. And you can't be lying. If you're going to say something that's alleged or has been disproven, as Mitchell was able to do here, you're going to win in court. ABC just paid Donald Trump $15 million because George Stephanopoulos said, no, he's a rapist. No, he's not a rapist, not by law. So for him to have said that opened the doors to them being forced to pay out. So this does rekindle debate over Mitchell's legacy. It pits his historical game against the ongoing skepticism in the gaming community. The truth of the matter is nobody cares at this point in time. I'm giving the records. Nobody's beating him. Nobody's going to care to beat him anymore. I mean, they're old. You're always going to have a handful of people who play those type of games, who go back to throw back a player, but they're going to be fewer and far between as the years come up. Rundown number 4, Gina Carano's Disney trial delay. So Gina Carano's legal battle with Disney, it hit another snag. The trial has been postponed to February 26th. She's accusing the company of stonewalling critical evidence, and they are. Their team had to file a motion to compel on April 2nd, claiming Disney's refusing to release documents like internal comms and financials. They're probably trying to delete them. Then they're probably going to come back and say they're lost, but they run the risk, the delay, the longer it happens. I think what Disney can do, settle out of court, bring her back to the Mandalorian, do a public apology, and say, we lost our way. And we apologize. And we're going to pay her some restitution, but give her a chance to rebuild her career. Because ESPN even blacked her out from the women of MMA. She had a hand in building that industry. And ESPN's owned by Disney. So they're just making it worse for themselves. That payout is going to be monstrous once this gets to court. And she's not going to lose in terms of being able to run out the clock. Elon Musk is funding her case. This case has become a cancel culture flashpoint. She's representing all the people who are canceled. And if she wins this, it floodgates the door open, including more lawsuits against Disney. Rundown number 5, Jonathan Majors film flops. Jonathan Majors was Kang, the Conqueror in the Marvel Comics universe, was accused of beating on his woman and taken off Marvel Comics universe. Hey, believe all women is what the Me Too movement said, but all that was only towards white men. There's a danger. Be careful what you wish for. Jonathan Majors got caught in this. So he's trying to come back. He made the news a couple of weeks pretending and lying. Well, you know, Robert Downey this, Robert Downey that. Completely different. It took Robert Downey years and years and years and years before he was able to come back. And even then, it was a bit of a fluke. He was implying the race card, too, when he was saying that. And he was doing this as he toured to pump up this movie, Magazine Dreams. That's not how you pump it up. But it was geared towards black women, the movie was. In my research, that's what came out. And it only earned $2 million. It has $10 million budget. It should break even eventually. I'm sure they're probably going to get some studio money for rights to stream it on Amazon or Netflix. But probably not as much as they thought. So maybe, but over time, $10 million, it should be able to hit it. But it's a flop in terms of what he wants to get back to the A market, the Marvel Comics universe. Because that's what he really wants. You know, so this flop follows his legal battles, and analysts are pointing to his eroded fan support. You can't beat on women, allegedly, I guess, without facing the consequences. So he did get critical nods for his performance. We don't know if it was really for that or they were just supporting him. Can he still come back? Yes, he can. Right now, he can. Rundown number 6. Hooters, saved by the original owners. This is a couple of weeks old, but Hooters' original founders, they swooped in to save the iconic brand as the iconic brand was filing bankruptcy. They're going to take over 100 restaurants to steer it back to profitability. So the chain collapsed under Hooters of America's mismanagement. And this happens not a lot, but at times the founders who really cashed out when they sold it, have money still, so they buy back their assets. And they want to leverage their legacy and rescue it from financial ruin. However, they're talking about making a family-friendly vibe. How do you make women with breasts as a showcase? Hooters, that's a name. Family-friendly. They're going to ditch bikini nights is one way, but I don't know how they do it. So I'm curious to see how that works out, and I'll keep you informed. Rundown number 7, John Wick Chapter 5 confirmed. Lionsgate has greenlit John Wick Chapter 5 with Keanu Reeves returning. Now, he died in number 4, Chapter 4. So no release date is set, but the studio's faith in Reeves and the director Chad Stahelski, they're going to figure out a workaround for Wick's apparent death. And obviously fans eat it up. Each movie has gotten progressively worse. The fight scenes have gotten progressively worse. It kind of reminds me of The Matrix. Eventually, the fight scenes are choreographed, and they don't look like fight scenes. They just look like people moving through the motions with the sound effects. And it looks cheesy to me. Now, I am a very stiff, I have high standards. Why? Look at Indian films. They're over the top, but they're fun. And you feel the fight scenes. Asian movies, they have really realistic fight scenes that like, woo, superhero type fight scenes, but look human realistic. So when I see the American Batman was the worst, Christian Bale, you couldn't move in that costume. His fight scenes. It was disgusting. The Christian Bale Batmans were some of the worst you will ever see in any superhero genre. But yet they made blockbuster money. But going back to John Wick, you know, to me it became silly with the suit thing. Every other shot was a suit, the bulletproof suit lifting it up, you know. But it's a $1 billion series. It has spin-offs. So they're going to take this as far as they can. And look, he's having the downswing of his career. he probably wants to go out with a bang. This is more than likely probably his last one. You know, he's getting older. He's not one of these guys who stays in shape like some of these older stars, like a Jason Statham or even a Stallone in his 70s. Still looks like a rock. You know, he's going along the lines of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who looks like just a fat slob. Now, not fat slob, but when he takes his shirt off, the steroids stretched out his whole frame now. He's like just one saggy piece of flesh. Yeah, Stallone. So he's just aging like a normal 50-some-odd-year-old guy. So, and my point is he doesn't work on his body in that sense. So age is going to catch up with him. This could be his last one. But I love these movies. As much as I criticize fight scenes, I love supporting Keanu Reeves because he's a nice guy overall. The stories out there of his compassion, his willingness to help. That's why I will go to a movie like his to support it. Rundown number 8, petition targets Tony Hinchcliffe at Netflix. So Tony Hinchcliffe, he of Trump rally fame, talking about Puerto Ricanos, the island being a garbage dump, which technically is true. We have garbage dump issues. We have huge garbage dumps and nowhere to put the garbage, and that's what he was referring to. I, as a Puerto Rican, can tell you that is true. I did not find him offensive. I found it funny. Well, because of that, there's a signatures. Last I saw, maybe 100 signatures. I'm sure there's more now. But they're telling Netflix, drop the comedic show you have that's getting ready to come on. You know, so they're trying to claim it was racially charged performance. It was not. It's just, you know, liberals, they take every moment that make everything about race for their advantage when it's not about race. So I guess the Netflix special is called Whose Country Is This Anyway? And it's set to come out in May. I thought it was earlier. But yeah, that's the one. I may watch it just to piss off the haters. Rundown number 9. The idiot, a.k.a. Bill Burr, dodges political spotlight. So Bill Burr went on Kimmel, went elsewhere, bad-mouthing Republicans, conservatives, the government, bad-mouthing everybody to protect leftist pigs. So he bristled when the reporters challenged him on that. You know, he was obviously uncomfortable being in a political hot seat because he was not in a friendly environment. You know, he hates Trump, you know, and he deflected all this, tried to laugh some of it off. But you could tell he was the C word. I promised my staff I would not sit there and talk like a sailor anymore. But I will say this. When him and his wife make love, it's the Amazon position. Because he is not a man. Let's just put it that way. Somebody who talks trash and runs and hide like he does, he is the C word, and it rhymes with duck, and his favorite position's probably the Amazon position. Take that for what it's worth. Number 10, Hollywood supports Rachel Zegler. So, this movie is taking even worse than anybody thought. Rachel Zegler of Snow White fame, she's infamous, she's an anti-Semite, she's a bigot. She's Colombian. Technically, my country, Panama, was part of Colombia, but because of the United States, we are now Panama. So, in a sense, she's a cousin of ours, of the Panamanians, because of our previous relationship, for country-wise. So, she's everything stereotypical in the negative, racist, hatish fashion of Latinos towards Americans who do not appreciate the country it is. She represents everything negative. You know, so the remake, they're trying to sit there and say, oh no, it's not Rachel Zegler. She was great in it. She was this. It's the movie, or it's the actors, etc., etc. So, and it's just terrible. This movie failed because of her and that dwarf. I forget his name. When he sat there and said, "Why are we doing this?" Meaning, why are you hiring dwarves to play dwarves? So they took Peter Dinklage. They took Peter Dinklage's hate, bigoted remark to heart, and they did away with dwarves. Dwarves came out from everywhere. Look, this is my shot to make money. Just because you're rich and you got a maid, Pete, don't be hating on us, which is what he did. That's leftism for you. They don't care about you. You are nothing but something to be used as a symbol to prop up. But in reality, they throw you under the bus to get a political point. Peter Dinklage, he really is dinky. In all the negative ways, personality, his inner person, etc., etc. Bad dude, bad dude. Same as Rachel Zegler. So what it is Hollywood's hate fest, hate-filled, bigoted actors and actresses are coming to her defense. They don't care about Gal Gadot, who got death threats because she's an anti-Semitic and kind of sick the people on her, not purposely, but that was a result we all saw was going to come, and it came. Number 11, CBS cancels After Midnight. After Midnight was their late show, and they pulled the plug on After Midnight because Taylor Tomlinson decided to go back to stand-up. So it kind of fizzled. Well, this is what happened. The show was not doing well in the ratings, but it was probably building. Their focus group said, hey, we like her. And they were thinking, okay, we can build around her. She may take a couple years to build around, but she decided to quit. And once she quit, they're like, well, we don't want to start over because the show's already tank. The show's not tanking, but we're in a hole, but we see promise to build it around her. But if she's leaving, let's just cancel it. And that's what they did. So this cancellation, it kind of highlights the risk of shaking up a fading format because late night television is dying. Why? They've all gone woke. Jimmy Fallon, and he's the dumbest of them all. He has no mind of his own. He is the C word too that rhymes with a duck because he's actually not the leftist pig that Jimmy Kimmel is and Stephen Colbert are, you know. But he chose to go that route because he could not take criticism. But that's a dying segment. Greg Gutfeld is thriving though. Why? Because he's funny. He cracks on everybody. Number 12, Devil May Care. Netflix fan reactions. And I agree with this one. Look, season 1 has left a viewer on episodes, has left viewers disillusioned. It had a promising start. I saw the series, saw it in 2 days, working out and late night. So the show's plot collapsed after episode 3. It was inconsistent narratives, heavy-handed with the politics, you know, like American Idiot blaring as America colonizes hell and drone bombs kind demons, you know. So it was just and the woman, a lady, oh my god, Mary, I guess Lady Mary, she was insufferable. The strong female trope that was wrong every time. I don't know, they're trying to build her up for a redemption arc. Oh, but she was insufferable. And Dante, he was second string. He wasn't even the star of his own series. And they made him weak. Mary just kicked his tail. Things the bad guys couldn't do to him, Mary did to him without thinking twice. So it was very badly written. Did not follow the gaming lore at all. Just bad decisions by this company. There are people comparing it to Castlevania Nocturne. And those comparisons are not correct. That was a pretty good series. The first thing, strong women, strong character. It was a good storyline. I enjoyed it. So I had no issues with that. This one here was just bad. Sloppy writing. The focus on Mary over Dante. It was a frustrating slog. And even for liberal fans, like, this isn't what I wanted. We didn't sign up for this preachy chaos. I just want to be entertained. Will they learn? No, I don't think so. And the final rundown, Tango live action canceled for the time being. So Disney has reportedly canceled its live action Tango remake. Fans are really, no, they're not. We're not shocked at all. Why? They look at Snow White. What the hell happened, man? We just got our asses kicked. You know, so insider reports the linking are linking the acting of Tango to Snow White's debacle, the flop of flops. Disney's now rethinking how they do their live action strategy after string after string after string of misfires and hundreds of millions lost. Here's what you do, Disney. Don't focus on cultural appropriation. Don't focus on making whitey bad all the time. Don't focus on making every minority holier than Jesus and making all whitey is evil. Just focus on a good story. Focus on good characters, whether they're white, black, Latino, Asian, or whatnot. Just focus on the story and your sales will return. It's that simple. God, you guys can be such morons. Such pajama girls over there. And it's costing you. Everybody saw, even Disney saw the Snow White debacle coming. The producer flew out to get that girl some help. She didn't care. So here's my final word of not warning, but my final word of advice, Disney. Create a cheat sheet. Before you hire any actor or actress for roles, check out their social media, what they're saying, the movies they've worked on and how they've done. Odds are not very well. Hollywood's teetering right now. Hell, most movies aren't made in Hollywood anymore. It's so expensive. So learn from these mistakes and just create good storylines and you will succeed and get back to huge, massive popularity and dollars. There you have it, my friends. There you have it. The Rude Rundown, episode 44. I hope you enjoyed it. This was another hard look on the culture and politics, but it was also a fun look. Said goodbye to Val Kilmer, gave you the lowdown on tariffs, and in conjunction with the Switch 2, why it's happening. And then we talked about racism with John Boyega, and he's a racist bigot. And then we talked about these rundown stories. So I hope you enjoyed that. Do not forget to like and share this podcast. You want more hard, ugly truth? Subscribe to us. Bookmark grumblingsmedia.com. That's where we keep everything at. But also subscribe to your favorite platform, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, where you can watch and hear us. Or if you just want to hear us, that is Apple, Spotify, y Pandora. Those are under the handle Grumblings Media for both YouTube, Rumble, and non-visual outlets. Again, do not forget to like and share this podcast. And until next week, my friends, I am William del Pilar, and this is the Red, White, and Rude.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.